Welcome back to another edition of The Plains Truth. Jason Caldwell here with Will Redmond, Auburn General Manager of Player Personnel.
Yeah, that's what they tell me. Yeah, so.
This is not a position that has been a position in college football until recently. First is for you, tell people, okay, I know that this job description would be all over the map because it is. It's high school, it's
Sure.
transfer portal, it's everything. Mm-hmm. It kind of covers everything under the sun as far as roster building, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I mean, I think the best way to look at that for somebody who wouldn't know anything about college athletics or the structure of staffs, to explain, hey, this person's over the recruiting aspect of things and film evaluation and roster management. If you had kind of a three-pronged idea of what it is that I do on a daily basis in an ever-changing world, that's probably the best way to describe it. And like I said, no 2 days are the same. And so I wear different hats on different days to accomplish different goals. And the fun part about this job is that change and embracing those things. And so incredibly appreciative of Coach Freeze kind of seeing that need and wanting me to be a part of it. So honored to be here.
It is, because it's a different world. When I first started this job across the street, we're in the new football building across the street at the old one, the coaches still watched film of prospects do this thing because there wasn't this big, huge recruiting staff.
Certainly.
Because it was a different world. And then it kind of added to it a little bit. And you start more by more. Now you have so many prongs of recruiting that you have to have people that help out the coaches. And that's kind of your job and the rest of the staff is to get guys in front of them that you think, hey, you need to take a look at this guy.
No question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for us on a daily basis, the fun part is uncovering new talent and finding guys with height, weight, speed, right? And then saying, all right, does that height, weight, and speed project to the NFL, and what's growth potential look like? And from there, does the film match up? And when the athletic traits match those pieces, and then when you start digging on the football character, the personal character of an individual, when all those planets align, as it were, then you know you're onto something.
Yeah. How does the give and take work with the staff?
Sure.
Where they go, hey, here's what we're looking for. Give them ideas, and then you kind of let them run with it. Is that kind of,
Sure.
or is it more give and take on, hey, specifics? Hey, like I said, starts with athletic traits and then goes.
No
from
question.
There,
Yeah, and I think too, schematic fit, comes into play, and so that's when you rely heavily on your coaches. Obviously with the changing landscape of college football, you've got a coaching staff assembled here by Coach Freeze where these guys know players. They have evaluated and been around top talent, and they've evaluated and been around talent that had to develop and turned into top talent. And so I rely heavily on those guys. I tell our staff all the time, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
And anybody in this room that says they do is crazy.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is when we work together as a team, together everybody achieves more. It's cheesy, it's cliche, it's coach speak, but that's the reality of this gig is when everybody is working together and all of a sudden you have consensus on a player from various backgrounds, whether that be coaching tenure, the amount of time a coach has been at the collegiate level and been evaluating, from the personnel side of things, given the full body, hey, we know, I'm throwing out an example here, but as we watch an entire board of, rising sophomore cornerbacks, we may say, hey, where you see this kid currently, as your eye takes you to the junior or senior class, as it pertains to this sophomore class, he's high up the board.
Yeah.
And when you've got a Rolodex of players to go back and recall on, you've got a great shot of being able to compare those guys, look at growth potential, athletic ability, ceilings of players, where their floor's at, where they're starting is clay to mold within the athletic process, getting them into this level. That's vitally important. And I say all that to say it's a to steal a Louisiana term, right? It's a gumbo of evaluation. And when you come to a consensus on a player as they fit culturally within your university and your program, as they fit from a work ethic standpoint, what they're going to do in the weight room and in their free time, right? Who they are outside the building and how they continue to work towards goals. And then the schematic fit and athletic ability of that player. When a position coach, and I've always found this, when a position coach, coordinator, or head coach has great belief in a player, they will squeeze every drop out of them because they believe in
Correct,
them. And so from my perspective, in the way this differs from the NFL, if I'm forcing a player onto our roster, that's not a great thing. Mm-hmm. You want players that every day, and I tell our staff this, I want them to be excited when they wake up every morning to coach the guys that walk into our locker room. If we do that, we'll be in great shape.
Yeah, because it is different. Because you go like, it is so much about a fit, because you have 85 guys and you have the ability to. Now it has changed with the development part is still part of it, but you never know how long you're going to have with somebody too. So you have to give and take. But the high school evaluation is years, where you're putting in months and months and months. Portal evaluation can be minutes.
Sure.
I mean, how crazy is it though? Because when a guy's in a portal, you got to make a decision pretty quickly, or there's 50 other people in line in front of you.
I call it speed dating.
Yeah.
The reality of it is you're trying to make an instant impact and connection with a student athlete who's got probably 30 other programs vying for their attention right off the bat. Having a logo and a brand like the one we sit in the building that we sit in today, changes the game for us as a program, because there's instant credibility with this university and elite talent, elite players, and a winning tradition in this conference that makes people want to be a part of it, regardless of where they're from originally. And so you've got a national brand from the collegiate space that opens up almost any door. And so what we like to think is, if we can get you on campus at that point, we got a shot. You walk these halls in this building, you walk around this campus, you go by Toomer's Drugs, and you show a kid around. When it clicks for a student athlete, they're like, okay, hold on now, this is different.
Yeah.
Which is something I tell kids all the time. I said, look, you just got to trust me. Come see this place and you won't regret it. And when that happens, typically you end up getting the player.
And to that end, they talk about real estate and they say location.
Sure.
Auburn is in a really good spot to get people on campus. Have you already seen that?
Oh,
because of the amount. I mean, like you're a stone's throw from most of the major areas that Auburn has historically recruited, and that's a big deal.
No question. And part of the reason I'm here is because of that fact. It's one thing to have great location. It's another thing to be in great proximity, like you said, to elite players. You look at this past draft, a quarter of the draft came out of basically the 4 states that we recruit. We can go national. We will go national for a great player. I'm all for that. But we can also win a national title with what's right here in our backyard in the great state of Alabama, the states of Georgia, Florida, Mississippi. You get into Louisiana as well. Tennessee has really come up. I'm from Tennessee, so naturally a little biased there, but I've been really impressed with the talent that's starting to be produced in that state. But we'll go anywhere to get a player. But to your point, you're a stone's throw away from some elite talent in a location where it's easy to get to and from a major, arguably the busiest airport in the world in Atlanta, and just a great metropolitan area to recruit, as well as Birmingham, Montgomery, down south on the coast, the I-10 corridor. I mean, these are areas where the who's who of collegiate football and then going into the NFL have been produced and come from. And so that we like our chances when we get to recruit locally like that.
Yeah. You mentioned kind of growing up in Tennessee doing those things.
Sure.
But you have an Auburn background, don't you?
I do. Yes, sir. Yeah. This is at this point probably been well documented, but this is a unique opportunity. I had a great job with wonderful people, proud of the work that we did collectively as a group. And when this opportunity came up, I did not know Coach Freeze prior to this, and got to know him through a couple of Zoom calls, if you will, and getting to know a couple of folks on the staff already.
Yeah.
Had a relationship or two here. And the more I learned, the more I kept saying, okay, maybe this is the right time. And quite frankly, prayed about it, thought about it, and trusted in the Lord, providing for my family and I. I've got a beautiful wife and 2 great little kids. And so uprooting a family is not easy.
Yeah.
And when you're settled and comfortable in a place, sometimes God opens doors and leads you down a path that you weren't expecting, and maybe one that your entire life you've been waiting on. And so I even going through that process, talking with my wife, I said, okay, 33-year-old Will's got to make the decision, not 13-year-old Will.
Correct.
Because 13-year-old Will is doing
all in.
All in is like, all right, how soon can I get there? Yeah. So this is very special. Again, have deep ties to this region, to this state. Both football ties, personal ties, and certainly excited to be here. My family and I have absolutely loved it.
Yeah, you talked about those Zoom calls and connections.
Sure.
Those are valuable tools now when you start a process, and I'm assuming that's valuable tools when you're talking about transfers, trying to get a feel for guys because you're speed dating.
Yeah.
But when you're looking to make a move, you got to get a feel before you even start the process. Go, okay, is this even a possibility?
Certainly, yeah. And to be honest with you, one of the first things that we look into is who's got a relationship with somebody that has been around this student athlete in his collegiate career. We want to know the evaluation process is not all about all positive or all negative. It's good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
We want to know what are the things that make this student athlete tick. What is he driven by? What is his ultimate goals? You know,
and the football stuff will show itself for a transfer guy, but it's more than just football.
Certainly, the film is the initial.
Yes.
All right, this is what we're interested in. From that standpoint, you put on your Sherlock Holmes hat and you get to work on the character, the football and personal character. And once you find somebody who aligns with Coach Freese's vision for our locker room, then you get going. Now that happens quickly, and so there may be a student athlete that hits the transfer portal at 9 p.m. By 10 p.m., we've already talked to him, and by 10:15 p.m., Bianca and our wonderful on-campus staff may be booking him flights to come here for a visit. And we will continue, even at that point, peeling back layers of the onion to make sure that this person fits what we're looking for as part of our roster.
Yeah. So you've been here for a few months now.
Sure.
Get kind of settled in. Now that you're ingrained here and got a feel for it, what's this process been like for you now being at Auburn?
It's these jobs, these places. I mean, we're sitting in a $93 million facility, right? And all of that's great. It is totally and unequivocally about the people that inhabit that building. I have been blown away at the relationships, the connection, the people here. This staff has no egos. These guys want to work hard. We get after it. We have fun doing it. We laugh in staff meetings. Coach Freese is an incredible leader to be around. I'm having more fun probably personally being here at Auburn and professionally than maybe I've ever had in my career. And I've had I feel like I'm just getting started too. I got that chip on my shoulder still. And I've been just so blessed and so fortunate to work with people. The difference here at Auburn, and Auburn people get this and understand it, it's the people. And when you love Auburn, it's cheesy, but when you love Auburn, man, Auburn will love you back. And selling that to a student athlete and having them come here and experience it and spending time in Jordan Hare on a Saturday afternoon and seeing Tiger walk, seeing the eagle fly, I mean, I'm just sitting here rattling off 18 different things that make this place different and special. It all comes back to the people. And having been a part of that and grown up around that my whole life, it's an honor now to be part of that tradition moving forward. But the thing that has made this transition so wonderful has just been the leaders, the men and women in this building that are just different, and it's different in all the best ways.
And that ties back to the starting point where we started,
Sure.
which is when you're looking for players.
Yes.
Everything comes back to relationships, to fit, to culture, all those things. And you're right, it kind of gets thrown around a lot.
Sure.
But it's absolutely true when you talk about Auburn football and this staff right now, isn't it?
Oh, there's no question. I mean, one of the fun pieces of this job is interacting with former players, right? And so obviously Jason Campbell is somebody who needs no introduction when you're talking about some of the greats that have ever played the quarterback position in our sport, right? Especially collegiately, what he did on that 04 team. I was 14 years old, and I remember almost every game of that season. You know, I mean, just it leaves a mark on you. And the leadership, the people that you saw as part of that program, those guys are great people to bounce ideas off of. So the NCAA allows, former student athletes of your institution to meet and speak with and talk to prospective student athletes. And so whether it be he or Ronnie Brown, some of these guys that are involved, even in calling a game here for the Auburn Tigers with the Auburn Sports Radio Network, it's been cool to see them be like, oh yeah, that's an Auburn guy. Yeah, and I love watching them get to know some of these guys, and just thinking even about the spring game, them getting to meet some of these players and them getting excited about who we're bringing in as part of this roster. And so utilizing some of those relationships as well to introduce them to our guys, because you want to bring Auburn men into this locker room. Yeah,
all these changes that have occurred.
Sure.
More changes on the horizon.
Sure.
I mean, in this job, it is about flexibility, isn't it? Because it is changing.
Question.
There's things you don't know, things that are coming. Adaptability, flexibility, that's honestly the future of this whole sport.
Certainly. Yeah, and I tell my staff and I tell our coaching staff, right, every day you walk in, you got to hit the curve. There's a curveball coming somewhere, boys, and we better be ready to hit it. And so if you come into any given day knowing there's a curveball coming, let's look out for it and let's embrace it and let's knock it out of the park. People hit curveballs out of the park all the time. Why not us? So just finding different ways to embrace the ever-changing model that is collegiate sports, certainly at this level of college football. Like you said, you have to keep your head on a swivel, you
Yeah.
know, and I tell our guys, even just think of it purely from a roster management standpoint. It's roster management. It's not roster reaction.
Correct.
And if we do this right, we will manage it and we won't react to it.
That's awesome stuff, man. We appreciate Will for joining us here. Catch us next time on the next episode. We appreciate y'all.